السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. وعليكم السلام. الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه. نعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. أما بعد، فإن الأحسن الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدى هدى محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. الحمد لله رب العالمين. All praise and gratitude is due to Allah. We thank Him. We seek His aid and forgiveness, and we believe in Him, and we rely totally upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. To whosoever Allah guides, there is no one who can lead him astray. And whosoever He, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, leads astray, there is no one who can guide him. And I bear witness that there is none worthy of ibadah except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I bear witness that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is His servant and messenger. And as to what follows, verily the best speech is the book of Allah, and the best guidance is the guidance of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And the worst of affairs are newly invented matters of bid'ah, wa kullu bid'atin dalalah. For every bid'ah is a stray, wa kullu dalalatin fi an-nar. And every stray thing is in the fire. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. وقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم: لا ضرر ولا ضرار. لا ضرر ولا ضرار. لا ضرر ولا ضرار. This hadith it can be found in Arba'in an-Nawawiyya, the 40 Hadith, Hadith number 32, which states, the wording of the Hadith states, let there be no harm or do no harm, and if harm is done to you, don't retaliate with harm. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was gifted with a type of speech which is referred to as Jawami al-Kalam. Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was gifted with what they call Jawami al-Kalam. In other words, he had the ability, Allah gifted him with the ability to say concise speech or a small amount of words. However, the meaning was tremendous, had a wide and vast meaning, even though the words were few. In this hadith, it mentions la darara. Darara is referred to as harm or injury. So here the Prophet ﷺ is saying, don't you be the one who initiates harm to anyone. And the harm actually is general. It can be any and all types of harm. The Prophet ﷺ said, don't be the one who initiates harm. Don't you do the harm. And if the harm is done to you, وَلَا دِرَارٍ, don't you be the one who reciprocates or retaliates with a greater harm, or a harm that exceeds or goes outside the boundaries of the Sharia. And they say that this hadith has many principles, includes many principles of fiqh. Don't initiate harm, any type of harm. Physical harm, verbal harm, harm that causes bodily injury, harm that is harming someone due to speech, or fraud or corruption, or harming someone's wealth, harming their person, harming them mentally or emotionally, any and all types of harm. And there's another hadith which mentions a Muslim, ala Muslim, or call a Muslim ala Muslim, haram. Everything that a Muslim has is haram, meaning is sacred, is to be protected. His himself, his wealth, and his reputation, or his personality, etc. Damuhu, his blood is sacred, or maluhu, and his wealth, and urduhu, his reputation, or his stature or being. All of these things are haram. We are not supposed to harm each other, to be the cause or the source of harm to the other person. We're not supposed to be the source. We're not supposed to initiate or cause harm to people. Now, but the second part of this hadith is interesting. وَلَا دِرَارًا لَا دَرَرًا وَلَا دِرَارًا. Don't you be the one that caused the harm. Don't you do the injury. Don't you be the one who is the cause of someone being injured. And guess what? It could be intentionally or unintentionally. Darara can be intentional or can be unintentional. You can do harm to someone intentionally, or you can harm someone unintentionally. However, diraran is intentional. And this has to do with retaliation. This has to do with revenge. This has to do with I'm going to get them back. Don't you be the cause of harm. That da da da. Well, that did all right. And don't you cause harm. Don't you be the source of harm. And if harm is done to you, don't you retaliate. Don't seek your revenge, etc., with a harm that's greater than the one that's done to you and or goes outside the boundaries of the Sharia. That, don't do wrong, and if wrong is done to you, don't retaliate with harm that goes beyond the bounds. And we can see how this can be a guiding principle of how we're supposed to live. Because no doubt, people do things happen. And hopefully, here, the Prophet ﷺ is actually prohibiting any and all types of harm emanating from the individual. Prohibition. Don't do harm. And then, on the other hand, if you are the recipient of harm, if harm is done to you, now here we get to the crux of the matter. Don't you retaliate with more harm than what was done to you. Your retaliation has to be within the confines and the boundaries of the Sharia. Don't go out of bounds in your retaliation. And you know what? This has to do with anger and anger management. And because somebody do you wrong, or you're going back to the street. Somebody do you wrong. Guess what? Guess what you're going to do? Or back in the street, you're gonna get them back, right? You're gonna do worse to them than they did to you. And the Prophet ﷺ, he spoke about anger. There are many hadith that relate to anger. For instance, once he told the brother, "La talk." And the hadith mentions that he says this over and over again. La talk. Don't get angry. La talk. Don't get angry. La talk. Don't get angry. So what happens with anger? Anger is one of the tools of Shaitan. Shaitan uses this to infuriate an individual. And if you notice, all of the words connected with, associated with anger, talk about getting hot, talk about heat. I was heated. I was in the moment. I lost it. Losing control. I flew off the handle. What the Prophet ﷺ said, don't get angry. Last chapter, don't get angry. And then he also said that if you get angry and you happen to be standing, what did he tell you to do? Sit down. Huh? And he said if the anger doesn't leave, lie down. Okay? It's a human emotion. We all have it. We all have the capacity to get angry. That tough though. Prophet ﷺ said that, who is the strongest person among you? And the companions answered, well, the one who can wrestle the other man down. No. The strongest among you is the one who can control his anger. Okay? In the heat of the moment, I got angry. I flew off, I lost it. You know what I mean? And many people, as we know, are sitting in places where they have to sit for a long time because they lost it. They lost control. And the thing is, what happens is not necessarily the anger itself, but what happens after you lost it. What did you do? You did thus and so. You did this because you were angry. And the Prophet ﷺ told us, explicitly told us, not to get angry. Don't get angry. Allah Ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Najm, regime, والنجم إذا هوى ما ضل صاحبكم وما غوى وما ينطق عن الهوى إن هو إلا وحي يوحى. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, by the stars as they dissipate, that your companion is not astray, nor is he deceived. And he does not speak of his own accord. This is revelation. So we need to understand that the wahi, the revelation that the Prophet ﷺ received, was in two parts, or two types. He received the revelation, which is the Quran, which we recite as a part of ibadah, reciting the Quran in the Salah. However, the second type of wahi that the Prophet received, revelation, was his speech. His speech is considered revelation. Now, we say we're Muslims. Alhamdulillah. We say, like Allah says, if you obey the Prophet, sallallahu you obey Allah. If you disobey the Prophet, you disobey Allah. So we say we're Muslims, right? And they say about the brother, they say, okay, he's all right, he's an okay guy, until he get angry. Don't let him get angry now. All those words, what the sheikh said, and all goes out the window. It's like when the dude get angry, it flies right out the window. Now, how are you operating when you're angry? We'll talk about this today. How are we acting when we get angry? Huh? Are we the Muslim at that point? Muslim means to submit. Are we submitting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with the understanding from the Quran and the Sunnah? Or we are mu, all right, but we the mu, I do what I want to do. I'm going to do whatever I want to do. Are you a Muslim or are you a mu, I do whatever I want to do when I get angry? Huh? Is that the Islam that we have? Is it Islam or is it I'm going to do whatever I want to do when I get angry? No control. Lose sight. All the beautiful hadith and ayat telling you to be calm and sensible and remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No, when you get angry, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, sit down. And if the anger doesn't leave you, lie down. Remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at that time. Let the words that come out of your mouth, that's rattling off your lips, subhanallah, alhamdulillah, la ilaha illallah, Allahu akbar, instead of mother this. You're a mother. With perfect tajweed. We say these cuss words, perfect, you can't recite no Quran, but you know how to cuss like a sailor. Perfect tajweed. You a blanker, right? Is that the character of Muslims? You're a Muslim before you got angry, and you're a Muslim after and while you're angry and after you get angry. Go sit down somewhere. Go lie down. Recite the Quran. The Prophet ﷺ said, anger is associated with heat, which is an attribute of shaitan. So how do you put out heat? How do you put out the fire? With water. Go make a wudu. The Prophet said, tell Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu, go make 2 rak'ah. When's the last time we did? We get angry, okay. I think I need to make a wudu. I think I need to sit down somewhere and go make wudu and read the Quran or something. Or unless we're going to just allow shaitan. But this is the trick of shaitan. Back to that. See, shaitan does not attack you from your strength. If an enemy is attacking the fort, he's not going to attack the strong point. He's going to attack the weakest point. He's going to attack you at your weakness. So what happens is in reality, what's really happening is you're displeased with the qadr of Allah. That's what it is. That's the root of it. Something happens and it didn't go the way that you thought it was supposed to go. Qadr of Allah. And then you get angry because it didn't go your way. You're angry at the Qadr of Allah. And so as a result of that, what happens is you may wind up doing something or subjecting yourself to something that you didn't originally intend to do. Because you're angry because it didn't go your way. MashaAllah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enable us to control our anger. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to be just like the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and to obey what he told us and get rid of this anger. La taghdab, la taghdab, la taghdab. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to be Muslims, not the move I want to do. I'm going to do whatever I want to do when we get angry. Now, barakallahu fikum fi Quran al-Kareem wa nafa'na bima fihi min al-bayan wa dhikr al-hakim. Wa aqulu qawli hadha wa astaghfirullah li wa lakum wa li sa'ir al-muslimin min kulli dhanbin innahu huwa al-ghafur ar-rahim. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. Hurt people, hurt people. Hurt people, hurt people. People who are hurting wind up hurting others. La darara wa la dirar, like the hadith mentions. Don't you do harm. Don't any of you do harm or injury to others. And wa la dirar. And if harm is done to you, don't you retaliate with a greater harm. A harm that goes outside the bounds. So inshallah, this section is actually meant for our sisters who will say, sisters and brothers actually, but sisters, many of them possibly are suffering in silence. Okay? We're gonna make it real. Okay? There's some of our brothers who can't control their anger. Some of our brothers who can't control their anger, for the most part. And then there's also some sisters who can't control their anger. Brothers, that's not love. That's a black eye. That's not love. That's a black eye. Or that's a busted mouth. Or that's a hit upside the head. That's not love. That's a black eye. Some of our sisters, and if it doesn't apply, it doesn't apply. But if, like they say, what do they say? If the shoe fits, wear it. Some of our sisters are suffering in silence. That's not love. That's a black eye. That's not love. That's a busted mouth. Huh? That's not love. That's you cussing the sister out. Huh? That's not love. It's time to call the Imam. Huh? That's not love. And unfortunately, additionally, there are also some brothers who are suffering in silence. Sister, wait a minute, what was that? Bring an old reference. That's not Stella got her groove back. You can't go out, sister, you can't go out and cut up the brother's clothes. Huh? Burn up his car, burn up the furniture. That's not, but where is the Islam in that? Find that challenge. Find that in the Quran and the Hadith. When the brother makes you angry, you can bust out his car windows. or whatever, right? So inshallah, we have to make sure that the application of the Quran and the Sunnah applies to you as well. Okay, so and I can't recall the exact name of the Sahaba, but the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he mentioned that he told his companions one day, that one right there is going to paradise. He's going to Jannah. So one of the Sahaba he's trying to find out what is this individual doing that's going to cause him to go to Jannah. So he told the brother under pretense, he said, well, my father put me out, so I need some place to stay. So he went to the brother's house, the brother took him in, he spent the night at the brother's, a couple nights, and all day and all night he's observing this brother, right? He's looking at him, trying to find out, why did the Prophet ﷺ say this man is going to paradise? So, and he didn't see the brother doing anything special or different, etc. So after a while, he told the brother, after a couple of days, he said, look, really, I just wanted to find out what it is about you that the Prophet ﷺ would say about you, that man is going to Jannah. Right? And the brother said, well, I can't think of anything that I'm doing that's special. I can't think of anything that I'm doing that's different or whatever. He said, the only thing I can think of is when I go to sleep at night, I don't have animosity in my heart towards anyone. That's the only thing I can think of. So we need to actualize, we need to implement the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. We're Muslims. We say that we submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We submit totally our will to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That we follow the Quran. The first thing is Quran and Sunnah. Follow the Quran and Sunnah when things don't go your way. Follow the Quran and the Sunnah from morning to night. Follow the Quran and the Sunnah when you get angry. La darara wa la dirar. Don't you be the source of harm or injury to anyone, and don't you, if harm is done to you, if you're the recipient of harm and injury, don't you retaliate with harm that goes outside the boundaries of the Quran and the Sunnah. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Inna Allaha wa malaikatahu yusalluna ala nabi. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu sallu alayhi wa sallimu taslima. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. ومن تبعهم بلسان إلى يوم الدين. عباد الله إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون ولذكر الله أكبر. And the remembrance of Allah is the greatest thing in the world. وَلَذِكْرُ اللَّهِ أَكْبَرُ. And the remembrance of Allah is the greatest thing in the world. وَلَذِكْرُ اللَّهِ أَكْبَرُ وَاللَّهُ يَعْلَمُ مَا تَصْنَعُونَ. And Allah knows what you do.